Hello and welcome to Life Clarifications with Natasha. I am so grateful that you are here to be with us, Marcelle and I, to give this story of life. And today has been this whole week has been kind of wonky with the full moon, the eclipse. We all have been having to be perfectly imperfect.
Mm.
It's like what's going to come at us. So I want you to know that it's been kind of a little bit crazy trying to get information and that kind of stuff, but I'm so grateful you're here.
Thank you.
So, I'm Natasha Venter, psychic medium, intuitive personal life coach who really enjoys bringing, there's a reason why we're here. There's a reason why we're going through what we're going through.
Mm.
And if I can give anybody any help, I know that her and her partner uh, were very much instrumental in giving me the push emotionally, physically, and spiritually to be me so I can be here. Veronica says hi. And what I'll do is I'll put posts up when there's a question or something. But yet, if it's just a hi or something, I'll just say something like that. But
Mhm.
Veronica's watching from Idaho. She's one of my regulars who I just adore. She's become my wonderful friend. So, with tell me us a little bit about you, my
Sure.
dear.
So my name is Marcelle, and my nickname is Hallmark because I'm basically a greeting card for my clients, and I try to cheer people on and give them great direction and advice and love and encouragement. And I've been doing that for 15 years now through Dreamosity, which is my digital marketing and advertising company, where I support remarkable leaders and I help cheer and steer them on. I say, and so I've really focused on like Facebook and Pinterest, YouTube, and Instagram. And then about halfway through that, I started a company with Brian Trendler, Laugh Tech, which is a
Mhm.
humor education company. Because I used to preach video, video, video. You gotta do video, and then real quick, I was like, wait, you gotta get good first, and then go on video. And
Yes.
my heart was broken, and I wanted to have some fun, and humor was my therapy for a while. So, humor heals, and it's got such levity when we are getting the room laughing, and it's actually quite hard to do, but any skill can be learned. And so I've been helping people learn how to develop their mix of humor so they can get on stage or on podcasts or on a TEDx talk or on who knows what. But I've been so inspired by you, Natasha, because you're one of our students who's actually launched a show.
Yeah, two shows. Actually, I have two
Two
shows.
shows,
I
yeah.
have Monday at 4 o'clock with Regan Forston, who's a hypnotherapist, and that's the Dance of the Soul. We talk about past lives and how the soul does its work, and
Mhm.
then life clarifications with Natasha on Wednesdays.
Yeah, love it. Good, good.
Yes.
You're doing great things, and people need healing from all sorts of spaces and places because life is hard, whether it's trauma or traffic. We always need, I don't know, good energy and a positive direction and encouragement. So,
And that is actually my life's intention,
mhm,
is to always bring love to a
mhm.
room. And
Love
I even got that today because I haven't come out to everybody at our school. And then it's like all of a sudden today, these teachers, I was saying, I have to leave early or I leave early. And they go, why? And I go, I do my other job. And I don't usually say my
it.
mediumship and intuitive work. And they were like, and I said, well, it's kind of push on people's personal beliefs, but this is what I do. And they go, oh, that's why you're so calming when you come into the
Oh,
room.
um, you have a peaceful presence to you, that's for sure.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about, well, which do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Dreamosity first, or do you want to talk about Laugh Tech?
Let's talk about Dreamosity first.
Okay, go ahead. So
Okay.
what is it based on? I mean, you said that it's about doing the tech, it's doing a lot of that kind of background stuff. But I also know that, like, you wrote a new book and it's
Yeah.
about the joy of money. Uh, but, it's like, doing
How are they
performing and
connected,
stuff like that, and
right?
then doing a book about money. It's kind of like,
Mhm.
for somebody who's looking at the snapshot of life, it's like, where's the connection? But I know for sure there's always a connection to everything.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, let me start off by talking about the name. So, dreamosity is the words dreams plus curiosity plus generosity. It's how can we use technology or our mind to do good, right? How can we be generous through that lens of curiosity, right? So, I've been very curious throughout my career, very like, how does this work? And how does that work? And, so much of marketing is an experiment or an art project, or, it could be a lot of different things. But I've been focused on those 4 platforms because those are ones where I've actually made money on them before. Whereas like Twitter and LinkedIn, I'm not going to give you advice because I think I've only made $10 with Twitter in my whole career. So I don't think you should
I
ask me
know. Yeah.
advice on that. And then, so financial joy came about because I was helping a 70-year-old client understand her profit and loss statement. And a lot of business owners don't get that report, or they may not have a bookkeeper, or maybe they don't have the software yet. But that report documents basically how successful we've been in business with our marketing on Facebook or Pinterest or billboards or whatever we're using. It kind of shows you a net profit. And in Financial Joy, I turned the 30-day calendar into a circle, right? Where you're looking at the flow of money coming and going, and
Mhm.
kind of this like ongoing uh my sales coach calls it a track to run on. He says we all have a track to run on, whether you're running a track every 10 days or every 30 days or every year. It's like there's a level of effort, and we need endurance and we need stamina, and we need to kind of keep pace, right? Some of us
Mhm.
are competitive and we compete, and some of us are just kind of here for the ride. But either way, there's going to be a result. And that's where financial joy for me was when me or my clients know how to generate $5,000 in any given month because they know how to sell and market and negotiate and be humorous on stage,
Mhm.
or to broadcast video, or to just offer new programs to the marketplace that people are dreaming about that we could be providing. And some months people do it and some months people don't. But the visual wreath, it's very much about respecting money. And a lot of times you're like,
Mhm.
ooh, I don't have enough, or I got this dumb bill, or there's a lot of stress and negative
Yes.
energy around money. And the joyful part to me is I say, doodle the data. So as like a financial ritual at the end of the month, I go back and I look, okay, how many conversations did I have? And I put like a little berry for the conversations.
Mhm.
How many times did I actually ask for money, right? And not normally am I a taker, I'm normally a giver, but it's like, we need to try to pitch our services at some point. And then the third thing I look at is how many invoices or estimates did I actually send. So like, and for me, Natasha, that I sometimes say something and then I get busy and I don't do it, right?
I know. That isn't
Like,
that amazing how we get that? And I'm really asking the universe to help me not self-sabotage right now,
yeah,
because as things grow, you get busier. How can you manage
yeah,
everything?
yeah,
It's like I gotta start writing things down.
yeah.
I gotta have
And
my notebook with me.
yeah,
I
checklists
gotta.
and systems and processes, it's all part of the solution. But some months are more like a tornado, and some months it's kind of like a pretty dance. And so anyway, so I track the conversations, the actual sales appointments, and the invoices, and then the paid money is like a pedal, right?
Mhm.
So for me, it's about honoring the patterns. And some months I'll do a lot, and some months it's like, well, there's a reason there's not much there.
Yeah.
But to me, it's also about making rejection pretty. So even if I have like 10 conversations and I ask 5 people to buy something and only one of them says yes, I'm still honoring those 4 no's, right? So
Mhm.
I'm like pink or blue or purple or whatever color I want. I'm giving it
Mhm.
the respect of, hey, I tried, right? I put effort out there. They didn't want to, so be it. It's never personal, but it is, you learn from every conversation and every person. And some people, they can afford it, or they just don't understand it, or they don't want it, or they don't need it. And then we can adjust from there. And
Yes.
so to me, the harmony and noticing it is kind of the energy part. And I've been actually one of my favorite business coach friends. He says I'm woo woo with structure, right? So I'm not like super woo woo, like crazy in the galaxy, but I have like some energy beliefs that I think you can use that when it comes
Mhm.
to managing the flow of our activity and then the results. But I also like to see the results because I'm like, I can't just keep my head in the clouds. I have to actually look at,
You have to get down into the basics.
yeah, did something happen?
Mhm.
So, and that's where financial joy to me, it's more of a sales and marketing. Like when you do sales and marketing well, the result is somebody makes a decision, somebody pays, and then there's
Mhm.
enough for you to then live your life with your budget or whatnot. So I'm not a financial expert. I'm not an investor per se. I'm not like a stock advisor. I'm more of like, let me cheer you on so you can figure out how much you need to do. And most of the time, people need to ask more. And this is where, I joke in the book that there are 3 types of sales personalities. Do you remember these 3?
No, but I remember be the seagull.
Yeah.
Mine, 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 mine,
And
mine.
these 3 came from a laugh take rant because I was so pissed off at a client who had her head so far in the sand. I called her this ostrich, right? So the first one's a snail. It's slow and steady, but they're underproducing, right? So they're never having enough. The ostrich, they're bold and beautiful, but they put their head in the sand every time they get scared, and that can actually be really damaging to the rest of the team.
Yes.
Which was why I was ranting that one particular day. And then the seagull is confidently soaring in the marketplace, not afraid to say mine, mine, mine. And it's just, it's a fun way to look at it because so often, again, we give and we care and we support and we pray and we serve and we cook and we do all these things. But it's like, did we ask? Did we take? And the word take even is kind of tricky, but did we receive? Because it's a gift for somebody else to give to us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when we don't ask, we're not even giving them that chance to bless us or to donate or to pay for what they, want to buy.
Exactly. And that's that fine line that, like we were saying beforehand, bringing in a little bit of our conversation to warm up for today, is that, us women are so good at giving,
Yes.
but we don't receive very well.
Yeah.
And as a woman, we need to start saying, I'm valuable.
Yeah.
And that's why my mantra this week is I value myself.
Good.
Because when we say that 3 times, what do? We stand up a little straighter. And
Mhm.
that means that we're asking. It's like it's time for me to be me.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah, love
good
that. Well,
job.
in fact, I see you here in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions. If you have questions about financial joy or these affirmations, definitely let us know because
Yes,
we'd love to
please.
be of service to you. See, there we go back to giving, just like that.
I know, but it is about conversation
Mm,
and what is it something that is chewing on us because we're not. And that's one thing, like I was saying, that I'm going to do a book study, and it's about being an under earner. And
mm,
it's not about being an under earner with money, it's about the personality of under earning.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
the less than, why am I sabotaging myself, why am I doing these
Yeah.
things? But it is about bringing joy to it.
Yeah, yeah, and
you
that's where
know
the creating and the color, with the color or doodle or sketch or just kind of finger paint, whatever. To me, that creativity is actually very calming. Now, if you hate art, it might not work for you, but if you like to play and dabble and create, it's like it actually calms the energy of that from that frantic energy to chill. I mean, you can also
Mhm.
meditate or pray, but to me, coloring, it's like it's kind of repetitive, and you go through the motions, and you notice the patterns, and it's very insightful. So.
Mhm. Well, that's one thing that, there's a statement that, because she takes posts or little marks from, other people, and one guy said, "Do we always wonder where money's gone, but do we ever ask where it comes from?
Yeah, yeah.
Do we always wonder where you go, but we never ask where you come from." And that's the thing, is we have to turn it around to, what are we receiving?
Yeah. Yep.
What are we gonna receive?
And that's where it's interesting. Some conversations turn into just, pleasant conversations. And some it's like, hey, I identified a need. Could I solve it for them? Whether I say, hey, for $200 I'll do this, or for 2,000 or for $20,000. And
Mhm.
that's where part of it is listening. Because if you're really solving problems in the marketplace, people will pay you for a service. And those services
Mhm.
may even be designed in the moment. And that's where I think intuition and where women are phenomenal salespeople is we can see a need and literally solve it, like
Mhm.
miss in the middle of that conversation, like develop a program or a retreat or a service. I know it sounds silly, but I've made
Oh.
I've made deals on that weren't planned, but it was still a win-win. And that's where I think the intuition part that you're really, kind of tapped into this like energy piece. We need to be willing to hear those good ideas. And if we got the
Mhm.
stress of the day in there, that doesn't work, right? So we've got to be able to receive this wisdom and then make a solution.
Exactly, exactly, and that's what I am willing to do, is that, if in this last year I thought, "Oh, group mediumship would be where my platform would be."
Hmm.
And then I got some really big, doing feng shui and house blessings,
Yep.
that was, and I spent the summer doing that.
Yeah.
And then here I was talking to my girlfriend, and she talked about maybe doing a book study with this book and the book that we're going to be doing. And it was all of a sudden I go, why not? I heard, why not you? And I'm like going, okay. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like all, and then I got the picture of me waking up one night going, you know what? My dad was a multitasker. My
Yeah.
dad could have been an electrician. He could have been a mechanic. He could have been a woodworker, but he
Mhm.
chose to be a chiropractor. And each one
Mm.
he did well.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, it came kind of down, it slid downhill to me because I'm doing
Well,
these
and
multitasking things.
and that's where my next training program, the revenue ringlet, it looks at different colors of revenue, right? Whether some might be from food service or dog walking or, gardening or like accounting and bookkeeping or marketing and graphic design or like
Mhm,
corporate America or the trades, right? Like, and it's okay for people to have 2 or 3 or 4 forms of income. And
mhm,
it even gets more pretty on the pictures, right? And that's where so I actually outlined 20 types because I think we should learn from people who have earned in the way that we want to learn. And
mhm,
sometimes, like, if our like, maybe you didn't wanna be a chiropractor, but your dad was, it's like, well, how do you learn to become a life coach if you've never had a parent who was a life coach, right? So, sometimes we need to match up with the right people so we can learn different things.
mhm.
Sometimes we just
Well,
need
that's the one nice thing about my dad is that he was one of the first ones to do applied kinesiology, which is muscle
Mm,
testing.
okay,
So that taught me about the energy of the body.
interesting,
And
yeah.
how, because he would have like an 80-year-old woman who couldn't do the muscle testing. So I would touch her shoulder and I would do the muscle testing for him. So I was the conduit. So I learned at a very young age on how to interact with energy.
Mhm,
How does energy work? And my dad used to walk around the house saying, "Get excited, you've got it."
yeah,
And even though I was dyslexic and very low self-esteem, he put me in the front of the mirror and said, "Natasha, it's time to say you love yourself."
mhm,
So I grew up safe in the home,
yeah,
not safe outside. I was bullied. I was,
mhm, mhm,
deemed stupid because of my dyslexia and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I was lost outside, but I was found in my own home. And so it was nice to be
mhm,
able to learn those skills and grow up with them. At the same time, working on an old Ford or a Toyota, helping my dad do electrician work in the house. I know how to do things. I can't do it myself, but I know when it's done wrong.
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite sayings right now is, that life doesn't have to make sense to appreciate it. So whether we were bullied or we had a spouse die or traffic was terrible or the elections went squiggly, whatever, it's like life doesn't have to make sense to appreciate it. And that's that generosity piece, that dreamosity. It's like, how can I get my core energy or my kindness, meter, if you will, like how can I get back to complimenting or good or appreciating even when it seems like there's a tornado or there's this
Mhm.
emotional ambush that just happens and like what just happened? It's like, oh wait, I get to respond, and how do I want to respond? And that it takes a lot of that grounding work. And I think you remember from Laugh Tech the yes and idea of like, yes,
Mhm.
this is happening, and right.
And
I can step into it, I can choose, I can just zip it, I can scream, I can laugh, like I have a choice. And that's really empowering once you realize I have a choice to respond or just stare strangely at somebody, right? Like however you use it, we get to choose versus like, no, no, no. 'Cause that
exactly,
doesn't
exactly. I the other yesterday morning, actually,
happen.
after several things that happened to me, I got told that I wasn't going to work with a student, that I was just getting in because I work with kids with dyslexia because I understand it. When
Yeah,
you spend 50 some odd years with it, you know it. And so helping kids, and I was just getting in the flow, and she was just starting to get the wheels mowing. And then I asked my supervisor, so what am I going to work on with her? Because there's some protocols between teachers and working on the same work. She goes, "Oh, you're not working with her anymore."
mm,
And I was like, and this is after 3 hours of sleep because something that happened the night before. I'm
yeah.
like going, okay. I know I had this like blank look on my face,
Mm,
but it was like, okay, I can go with that. Just let me know what to do next. And my
mhm.
husband was like, "Well, you should have said, well, why aren't you valuing me? Why aren't you letting me work on with kids? Because I know it."
Yeah,
And yet I said, at that time, it was better. I just said, okay,
yeah,
because otherwise my little girl, my little inner child would have been, but why can't I? And
Right. Good
no, it
sound
was,
effect right there. Good sound effect, Natasha.
it was like, but what I had to do was I had to go from reaction to interaction. And I
Mhm,
knew the next time I talked to her, I can still be a little bit triggered,
mhm,
but yet I can be more interaction and have more of an adult conversation
mhm.
than a
Yeah, yeah.
little child
And who
interaction.
knows what little tyke you'll get next, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
someone great's gonna come along, somebody else who needs your knowledge and your patience, and then that's where it's like, "Okay, life just have to make sense. I'm just gonna do my best to appreciate it and get back out there because someone needs my help," you know?
exactly. And that's the thing that, the language that I choose to go into is I first have a reaction.
Mhm,
Everybody's going to have a reaction.
mhm,
Why not? Why does it? Well, whatever words you want to come out of your mouth. But then it's the same time. It takes a little bit of work, especially when an old pattern is triggered,
mhm, mhm,
to say, okay, this is an ending. What is the next possibility?
mhm.
I want to concentrate on the next possibility. And it took some work this time because I was getting really triggered for 3
Yeah,
days in a row with
sure.
some really deep work,
Yeah.
that it but it was one of those things. Keep moving forward. What's going to come? What's going to come? I don't have the answer yet. It's still in the works. Now, if she puts me just in a classroom, I'm going to say, I feel like I'm being devalued. I'm
Yeah.
not feeling valued. I
Yeah.
don't mind going in classrooms and helping teachers, but that's not all I want to do.
Mhm, mhm,
I got more that I can do,
mhm.
more I can have for you for
Right.
these kids. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It's just a thing. So
Yeah.
but it's that valuing ourselves and how do we work through
Mhm,
it. And a lot of us, especially women,
mhm,
men are getting this way though too, because men aren't using they're not finding the old pattern of manhood is
mhm.
not here like it was.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So men are trying to find, where do I stand? Where do I go? I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want to do.
Mhm.
The old way used to be this,
Yeah,
which
work
makes
hard
sense.
and
Yeah, which makes sense for a lot of men because they're for lack of a better word, more simpler
mhm,
minds.
mhm,
It's like, let's get the food to the family. Let's make money for the family.
mhm.
Let's, do what we need to do. It's not us women want to better the world. Men want to work in the world.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, interestingly enough, Laugh Tech, we've had a lot of good luck with bankers and accountants and people who are
Mhm.
very numbers, results, data driven. And what these managers of these teams are finding is all these men and women, they have the hard skills, but they don't have the soft skills.
Yes.
They can crunch the numbers, but can they feel? Can they connect? Can they share and be
Mhm.
effective? And so Laugh Tech, well, we're not trying to make these accountants entertainers per se, but we need to make them more charismatic and more warm to a very overwhelming topic for many people. And so it's been
Exactly.
fun to see just these corporate cultures embrace different methods of learning and feeling and like what am I feeling and how do we use those feelings throughout even a presentation to bring them to a result versus getting just stuck and angry, right? And it's honoring and knowing what to do with emotion versus just ignoring it and stuffing it, and that's a skill that takes time.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember, but there was one, I forget which one it was, but there's one activity that
Yeah,
you guys do. And I came with the idea of not everybody it needs to be a Rocky Road ice cream.
yeah,
We can be vanilla and be just as good.
yeah. Mhm.
Do you remember that one?
Was it curveball? It must have been a different improv. I don't remember
Yeah,
specific.
I forget what, because you
Yeah.
have the 5, and we're scrolling over to Laugh Tech
Yep,
now.
yep, that's
Um,
okay.
but you have laughter, you have synchron
Oh, so it's a scene, sound, story, sensation, which is the emotion,
uh-huh.
sequence, and silly.
Yeah,
And silly is just kinda like, "Wow, whatever." But the other 5 are pretty, there's a lot of curriculum behind them, so
yeah, and I think it was story that
yeah.
we were talking about in that one,
Mhm,
because I
mhm.
know that, yeah, the sound ones were really fun to do too, because we had to do a presentation where we just made sounds.
Yeah, yep,
We
they were
didn't really have words, but we had sounds.
Yep.
So if you were putting on your shoe, you had to go,
It
you
is
know,
a
and that kind
great
of stuff.
sound. Yeah, well, and so much of communication isn't what we're saying, but it's the tone and how we say it in our
Mm.
body, and there's so many pieces to it that, again, people don't learn that in a textbook.
No, they don't. And now, especially with everybody texting, we don't have the skills to know how to speak face to face.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get into the school system where we can help children learn eye contact again. COVID
Yeah.
was rough for people, and it's
It
like
was.
the screens and the Zooms and there's gotta be some, I don't know, clever conversational workshops or something to help people reconnect because it's not happening. And a lot of parents don't know how to lead it because they're, stressed out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
so
exactly. Well, I gave your name to our group, the parent group,
yeah, thank you.
to reach out to you. So if you get her name just popped out of my head.
It's okay.
Uh yeah, I will it's coming. It's coming back in. But she's it you know it, because we our school is from K through 6, so even if you do, like, 3rd through
Mhm.
6, I
Yeah.
think that, just even doing the curveball and the yes,
Yep.
and the, just those improvic modes that, our one of our, cafeteria ladies,
Mhm.
last year, she would get kids who wanted to come up and sing on stage
Aw,
or tell a joke or that
yeah.
kind of stuff, and there would be certain kids, but there would be certain kids who would be scrunched down and not
Yeah.
wanting to do it, and those are the kids that need to be reached.
Yeah,
Because
they've
I
got some sort of fear or confidence issue or just and that you learn so much when step out of your comfort zone and just do it.
exactly, because I, in high school, took an F because I refused to get up in front of,
Yeah.
8 people.
Yeah, public speaking, it's the number one fear that people have, and so to me, I'm
And
like, "But it's
actually
so much
now
fun once you're on stage." Sometimes it's like you have to pull me off.
I know,
It's
I'm
enjoyable.
I know I'm not into making, like if it was because you guys do comedy night, but I wouldn't do comedy night necessarily. But
You
if
could do the
you got,
improv afterwards.
yeah, it's one of those things that, like if you wanted to do mediumship or a
Mm,
class or something like that, I could stand up in front of people and it would be no problem. But I know I have funniness in me and I want to gain
yeah.
funniness, but
Mhm.
not necessarily like my husband says I'm hilarious, but probably because I'm dyslexic and I'm kind of disjointed half the time. So he thinks I'm kind of hilarious. But in the sense of doing things like that, it's not my go-to
Yeah, well,
as
and
per
we're not
se.
trying to make our clients comedians per se. We're really just trying
No.
to give you the tools so you can, be confident on the stage that you were designed for, which you're already
Mhm.
doing, right? Which is
Mhm.
phenomenal. And now I think we just got to look at your sales plan and your sales flow so we can get you on some bigger stages and planning retreats and all these other fun things that could happen because
I already have a place where I can do a retreat. It's just me getting
Mhm,
for lack of a better word, following.
mhm, yeah, yeah,
I don't, it's the, and it's not that I want to be popular. It's about reaching people.
yeah.
I
Well, I
have
think
something that can reach people.
so can we brainstorm for a minute just live?
Sure, I would
So
love to.
there are communities out there right now designed to help people heal, right? It could be
Mhm.
like a church group or a widows group or a grief group or whatever. But you could literally go to, your 20 Twitter followers, or I think you said you're up to 50, and just say, "Hey, I'm looking for an introduction to a retreat owner or a art therapist or did I already say retreat center?
Mhm.
Or, I'm trying to think of the other ones now. But anybody who facilitates healing, if you could just
Yes.
and just say, "Hey, I have this idea. Would you wanna co-create a retreat?" You can teach on your stuff for half the time, and I'll teach and share and let people experience what this is. Because a lot of people don't understand it, right? A lot of people are very confused, and they're very weary of it, but if you create this space, and then it's like, "Well, how much do we charge? Is it 195? Is it $300?" And then you get like, "Okay, I got 10 people paying $300. Could we make it work?" Right? And then it's like, "Hey,
Uh-huh.
there's $3,000 worth of revenue." And so then it's just a matter of finding the space and getting people to, transport and But you could do them virtually too, right? Create events where you
Mhm.
$10, $100, whatever that number amount is, and people come and show up. They're like, "This is a great experience. I want to facilitate it for all my sisters or for my brother-in-law who's still pissed at grandpa," or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
there's all these like broken-hearted people out there that I know for me, I consider myself a Christian, but for a long time I was very against like prayer. Like I didn't like it. It didn't work. I was too angry, right? And so for
Mhm.
humor was something that grounded me and it got me center. I've gone back to my old, traditional ways or whatnot, but I went through a lot of various experiments to get back to making sense from the pain, right? And I think a lot of
Mhm.
people they're on that journey. One of my other clients, she's a kind of a life coach, but she's like, people will go through five counselors or all these books or all these meditate, they go through a bunch and then they find her, right? And then
Mhm.
people are going to keep going and going and going until they find relief or pleasure or a direction or peace, right? And that's
Yes.
where the grief is so messy that it's never
Oh,
like, hey, I'm just
yes.
going to go back to my old ways and be done.
Oh,
It's like,
no, no, no,
oh,
no. I just had a s I have had a session with somebody about 4 weeks ago that, they were saying, "I just wanna get back to normal," and I said, "Go forward into your new normal.
yeah,
You
you
can't
gotta
go back
get a
into your
new,
you
mhm,
have to go into a new normal, and it's a process."
well,
And I mean, it was a longer conversation than that, but that's the short version
yeah,
of a moment that's coming for people,
yeah.
is
Well,
that moving
and there's
forward.
so much right now around like diversity and inclusion and all these great, buzzwords. And part of me is like, we need diversity in healing modalities because
Yes.
you can't just journal. Like journaling alone is not going to get you there. It's a wonderful practice. And there are all these other, a buffet of goodies that people can be experiencing. But well, honestly, Natasha, I think I love that you're doing video now because more people need to see that people like you exist. If they've
Yes.
only heard of pastors and counselors and their parents, right, or their friends, it's like,
Mhm.
well, there's a time when certain things um may not be the perfect match. And so the fact that you're being bold and being on camera and interviewing people, it's like we get to showcase what you're doing.
Yes, 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 and that's the thing that I've had somebody say to me that, I've known psychics, known mediums, but they haven't been down and gotten into the story of being human. They
Yeah.
haven't gotten down and know what the backside of grief is.
Yeah, and unless people have been super shattered, they may never know until they experience it, and that's okay.
Exactly, and that's where I've been shattered.
Yeah,
Living with an alcoholic for, almost 25 years. I know what being shattered that way is like,
yeah.
while raising kids and having to be your better self.
Mhm.
In the meantime, you're surviving.
Yep.
There's those stretch and pulls. I mean, you saw me at the beginning where I was in my shell,
Yeah, you
you
were
know,
very, very reserved.
very reserved because the fact that, I was at that time with an abusive husband,
Yeah,
verbally abusive husband, and so I was in
and
a
that's
shell to
exhausting,
protect
you're bleeding.
myself.
Yeah, yeah.
And now,
Mhm.
hallelujah, type of
Good, yeah.
thing.
And everyone's gonna go through their own journey, and I do
Yeah,
think, we're constantly either expanding or shrinking in, like, what's that C word? Like
contraction.
yeah, we're contracting or expanding, and we do that in our whole life, right? When we're young and we find first love, we just kinda glow, and then we get our heart broken, and we're constantly in this open and close, and, sometimes we're healing and sometimes we're hurting, and I hate to say it, but I think people often we don't realize when our chaos is causing pain over there or how
Yes.
our creativity is causing healing across the country, and that's where we need more people in that. Again, like you said, the conversation of humanity. How do we step
Mhm.
into the new normal and design that in ways where people get to play and explore without judgment or fear? So,
Exactly, exactly. I had one time where I got some really bad news, and I had to come on air within a half an hour of getting that
uh,
news, and I heard, "Go on."
ooh,
Intuitively, I heard, "Go on."
yeah, okay.
And I sat here and I said, "Okay, when you get your legs sticking out from underneath you, and you're
Mhm.
gonna watch me how I process it, because
Mm,
I wanna help you process." and going to the light after
Yeah.
you get your legs kicked out from underneath you.
Mhm, mhm, yeah, and I think a lot of people, when we do talk about, the sadness or the shame or the embarrassment or all those emotions we talked about at Laugh Tech, it's like, that's where some of the humor is, right? Not the
Yes.
humor, but the helpfulness, 'cause you're like, "Oh, yeah, me too." Or, like, there's this, humans connect across the tragedy, not across our brilliance, but against, the kind of the broken parts sometimes.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And that's that there again is the tug and pull,
Mhm.
because for me this full moon, I call it shadow work,
Yeah.
and that's not a cliche word that everybody knows, but it's about getting down and saying, why?
Mm,
Why am I this way? Why is this happening to me? And how can I get to where I'm not the victim of shame for the rest of my life?
mhm,
How
mhm.
can I not be the guilt, the sit in guilt for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
How, these moments are to look at ourselves. And I was awake at 3 o'clock this morning going, there's a thread. What are all three of these things coming together for me
Yeah.
for? And then I heard it was vulnerable, or it was valueness, being
Mm,
valued.
mhm.
And then because everything has an up and down or
Yeah.
an in and out, there's two sides to every coin,
Mhm.
that it was like, oh, but am I valuing them the way that, I'm asking to value myself and them to value me? Do I value them
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
comparison to what they are or could be?
Mhm.
It's not that they should be, but how they could be. I
Mhm.
could spend just a few more minutes, honor them, value them by looking them in the eye instead of looking at the phone.
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
that I do that a lot. I really try to look at their eye, but that's an
Yeah.
example, because a
Yeah.
lot of us are down here. Yeah, 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 yeah. And we
Mm,
don't value who we're with,
mhm.
you know? And so it's that tug and pull of how
Mm.
can we be ourselves. And I'm so grateful. I've always valued, there's that word, your joyfulness.
Aw.
Because I met you when your legs were still trying to get
Yeah.
underneath you.
Yeah,
And
I was spinning.
you were spinning, and
Mm,
there was a reason why I came into your life.
mhm.
I was still finding myself, so I was perfectly imperfect with you.
Yeah.
I know that I could do different now, but that was then, this is now. And those stories of how we are and what we're doing. And it's interesting how, even though we were perfectly imperfect, we found this like communion together. Even though we have this, I always say that life is like a 3D or a flat picture of a DNA strand.
Yeah.
We go
Oh,
in
yeah.
and we
Yep.
connect, and then we go out and then we connect, and then we go in and we connect. So
You
that
would
that
love
and
data art because it's very, like, noticing the patterns in the flow. You would love data art.
mhm.
I think you would.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Because
Yeah.
I actually, when I did, my, pictures and stuff like that, I did my
Mhm.
own drawings a
Yeah.
lot of times
Yeah.
on things, and so
Yeah.
I'm very visual about things. And
Yeah.
I that's when people always say, "I don't know, I sat down with 5 problems,
Mhm.
and you connected the thread through each one to
Yeah.
get to the story of how I can work my whole life." And I'm
Mhm.
like going, you know,
Yeah.
even Brian even says that, "Natasha, you just have a way of putting things together."
Yeah. Aw. Yeah.
So I love that you are one to bring joy in, and to help people, you know, through Laugh Tech and through Dreamosity, that there's this moment that you do help. Ah, I get it now.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's so many pieces to business, and there's a lot of, puzzle pieces, and every month there's a different set of challenges, and, the economy is never exactly the same, the customers
Mm-mm.
never have the same drama, it's always, like but there are some threads that do kind of pull together and build something that's beautiful, I don't know.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I understand that. I do understand that, because it's amazing. And I know that, like, and
So
it's a gift that you have Dreamosity and Laugh Tech, because actually they both, are two
yeah,
hands that can, play into each other.
yeah, a lot of clients cross over, which is kinda fun.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes, yes, yes.
so let me ask you this, you've been asking me questions, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
If I were to introduce you to data art and come up there and see you, or we can meet at a coffee shop or something, who knows what, if I were to show you a process, what would be your preferred medium, like art medium? Like, would you want charcoals or crayons or colored pencils or just markers? Like, do you get creative often?
I do. That's
Okay.
where my feng shui comes in, because
Okay.
like I don't clean house, I re-feng shui my
Yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah. But like for
So
art medium, what would be your creative?
probably pencils. I mean,
Okay.
I love paint. I love, but like it depends
Mhm,
on where I'm at. Like
mhm,
for me, doing paint, it's almost like I would prefer to have something set up
mhm.
in an area, so I know that it's a safe place to be,
Yeah,
or like if there was a class going on for painting and everything was set
yeah,
up. But
yeah, 'cause
pencils,
yeah,
charcoal, I like charcoal, but I
yeah.
like to use my hand too much.
So
You know
do
what I
you
mean?
have a set of colored pencils close to you on a daily basis?
I do not.
Okay, but you have some, right? You own some?
I do own some.
I would put them in your purse. Next time you find them, it might be in a
Oh.
week, it might be in a month, whatever, but whenever you find them, put 2 colors in your purse.
Mhm.
And as you well, I have to show you the process first, but once I show you every 30 days, and then you notice your own like, I think you would really, and because you're dyslexic, wait, do you do, the numbers backwards too?
Um, I
What does
don't
that entail?
necessarily do numbers
Um,
backwards. I
okay.
mean, I can, like, if I'm gonna
Yeah, you
write.
swap them.
Yeah, I'll swap 'em,
Yeah.
but what it is with dyslexia, it's not necessarily
Mhm.
it's the way that our brain processes
Yeah.
more than it is, about how because it's not about not knowing, it's
Mhm.
about, like, for me, um, writing down numbers, and I would have to double check it, and
Mhm.
then I double check it again, and then I double check it again because I see something. Oh, wait
Mhm.
a minute, did I see it correctly? Oh,
Mhm.
wait a minute,
Yeah.
did I see it correctly?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like
Mhm.
it's that part of it. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yep, yep.
So for me, drawing,
Mhm.
it's in the other part of the brain, because there's two parts of the
Yep,
brain. There's the math and the logistics, and then there's the creative, the intuitive.
yeah.
And
Your creative
woo,
intuitive is very strong, yeah. I think you would really like it because, well, it's just creative and it's visual, and you don't actually have to draw the 3 or the 8 or the 5, you're drawing symbols, right? So you're
mhm.
noticing patterns versus, accuracy, and let's be honest, do you know who made the spreadsheet back in the '70s? A man. Right? So while the spreadsheet is it's a great tool for some things, it's not beautiful. It's not harmonious. There's no, like, graceful, angelic energy to it, right? Like, it's just
No,
data,
and actually, I
not very
cannot
helpful.
stamp spreadsheets because I have to mark every other one in a
Yep,
color, because I can't, if a name is here, I can't go across here. I'll go up, I'll
yeah,
go down. I can't, it's
yeah.
like,
I have to show you. We'll have to do have you ever done on your StreamYards here where like, show a demonstration? Have you ever done that?
I have not, but I know I can.
Okay, another time, let's maybe do a demonstration. I don't wanna do it right now tonight, but I think it would be fun because and it would almost be an experiment because I've got another client, she's neurodiverse, and for her, pictures are so much more easier than lists, right? Some people
Mhm.
like lists, some people like mind maps, some people like flowcharts, but data art to me, it's just I don't know, it's got good energy, like I said,
Yeah.
woo-woo structure, like, it's not too woo-woo, but not, like, spreadsheet either.
Okay, because like you saying that you do something once a month,
Mhm, mhm.
that's where I sabotage the flow of what do I want to bring in. I
But
don't have any flat
how long
line
how long do you want that to be your story?
uh, right now. I'm
Okay.
done.
Yeah, you could get good with money. I mean, that could be your new story, your new reality. Get good with
Hmm.
sales, good with asking. You're already great at promoting and being on camera. I mean, you got that part down, right? And that's why I think as women and as business owners, we are constantly evolving. And who I was when I met you isn't who I am today, right? We grow and we shrink and we grow and we
Hmm.
shrink, and that's okay. And we learn new skills, right? And that's where for you as a storyteller, as a master storyteller and creative, you've got to rewrite your story for this next chapter.
Yep, and
Your
that's totally what I'm
is
doing.
who you are right
Yep,
now.
exactly. This because this full moon and the eclipses usually hold an energy for about 6 weeks, which
Mhm,
brings us into the new year.
Mhm.
It's like, so it's like, okay, whatever needed to be released in the last 3 days,
Let it go.
because
Let
one
it
was a
go.
personal implosion.
Mhm.
And so that implosion, it's like, okay, how can we rewrite a newer, fresher,
Mhm.
blessed
Yep.
story?
Yep. Mhm.
And so that's the intention, is how am I going to bring in, and I'm using these 6 weeks
Yeah.
ishnesses to
Mhm.
practice, so that I can step into the new year with a new knowing. And
Yeah.
I can say that even if you're not a business person,
Yeah.
even but even being someone who runs a home, who's a
Mhm.
part of a home,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they need to take care of themselves,
Mhm.
have
Yeah.
logistics of taking care of themselves, because I know there's a lot of people that are on the cusp of splitting
Mhm.
up with their relationships.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
then they have to be a single person,
Mhm. And that's
man or
a new
woman,
story.
man
Yeah.
or woman,
Well
you know?
well, hey, and I was just talking to a lady, I don't know, a couple nights ago, and she's been going to AA for 20 years, right? 20
Mhm,
years sober, and they do these retreats, and apparently that community for, whether you're the alcoholic or the partner is, it's like there are these remarkable communities of support and healing, and maybe someone else in your house needs to have a new story, right? And that's where, like, there's our story, but then there's our partner's story, and those are
mhm.
always in flex. Like, people are never the same year in and year out. I know that's probably too much for today's topic, but people change, and she was like, oh yeah, I was awful when I was younger, and she's again 20 years sober now, and it's like her new story, and she was out just volunteering with this political project I was working on. I was like, wow, this 67 odd, I don't know how old she is exactly, but she was like passionate about her city and her country. Whereas
Uh-huh.
20 years ago, she could care less, right? So people are
Exactly.
constantly choosing new things, and sometimes we just need the right environment to really recraft that story, which is why I'm
And it is that
asking.
practice to do better. Like, this book study I'm gonna be doing is gonna be every 2 weeks,
Mm.
because of the fact that, if
See,
we
that's
did it.
consistency.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's not necessarily, I was gonna do it once a week, but I'm like going, that would be way too quick. I mean, I'm doing it, but not everybody can go
Yeah.
into this, because I'm used to working in the shadows. I'm used to going
Mhm,
in deep. Okay,
mhm,
that really effing hurt. Now why did it hurt?
mhm,
It's almost, that's my first reaction, because I've gone through, since childhood, past
mhm,
lives, of being bullied. I mean, I
mhm.
died one lifetime, because I had rocks thrown at me because
Wow.
of being
Yeah,
intuitive. So with
yeah.
that I've had many lifetimes of this story, that I'm saying,
Mhm,
I'm done.
mhm.
I'm done with that story, and that's that coming out and up, and being the better light, if
Yeah,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So it's
Mhm,
that practice to do better,
mhm,
and it's that, because that's one thing that we forget in this lifetime. We are very human.
mhm.
We are very human.
We all are.
We all are,
Yeah.
and how can I practice to do better?
Mhm, mhm.
It's not about, jumping into the next dance. It's about practicing to do better.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
not doing practice to get perfect. There's no perfect.
yeah.
Nature's even perfect. It's perfectly imperfect. So how can I
Right.
practice to do better?
Mhm,
And it takes time,
mhm.
you know?
So, Natasha, have you ever really thought about your sphere of influence?
I know it's bigger than what I see.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm actually we're gonna speak for tomorrow at the chamber on visualizing your sphere of influence. And one of my lines is gonna be whether you're homeless or, a business owner, you have a sphere of influence. And I think
Mhm.
everybody on that poverty spectrum, from the bottom of the barrel to, retired with millions, it's like we all have a sphere of influence. And
Yes.
sometimes people don't know how to either leverage or serve it or connect with it or ask, and that's where, again, back to data art, there's so many ways we can visualize these communities. Like, you're in my group, Humor Heals, right? I think you're in that group. You should be in there. You should be in there if you're not. It's now over 500 members. And this all came from the fact that I had a broken heart, back in
Yeah.
2014. And now all of a
Mhm.
sudden a bunch of people also have had broken hearts, and we're
Yeah.
using,
Oh, it's part of the story.
yeah,
It's the human story. Yeah.
and that's just one small piece of my sphere, right? I'm in these other, sales groups and marketing groups and political groups and fitness groups and, art groups, which are my favorite right now. But as we visualize that sphere of influence, we have the ability to be of service to more people. right? Which eventually we can sell to more people if that's the case. And so, I'm excited to create with you, and we got to visit soon, like
Yes, we
in
do.
real
We do.
life.
Because you've been actually tapping to me. I had to do some personal work to get to the level, to be prepared to have my feet underneath me so I can walk forward when we met. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
I had one foot on the ground. I needed both feet firmly on the ground, and I know I do now.
Yeah.
So, I
Well, I
knew
have
I
work.
was always off. There was something that was always off, and I figured out what that was last month.
Oh, good.
And so, and
Well, you're
I'm
doing
getting
great
there.
things, and I am so proud of you. I know we've had LaughtTech graduates who've done, they've written books and they've been on stages, but I don't think anybody's launched a show and done hundreds of videos with it. So you have done a remarkable job in that sense.
Every week. I mean, there's been
Well,
times where my partner couldn't do it on Monday, and I've done it now. There was one time when I went down to Florida. Ouch, cramp. Sorry. Ah,
yeah, take it out.
sorry.
No,
You're gonna have to take over for a minute.
do you want to grab
Ah, cramp.
water or something? Yeah, you can take care of whatever you need to. I can
Yeah,
distract
it's a
you.
thigh cramp. Sorry. There we
Oh,
go. Oh, it's working out. Okay, there we go. Okay, I haven't drank enough water when I've been not eating. Does that make
have a
sense?
banana too. Bananas will help with like cramps.
Yeah, I take a lot of magnesium, so
Oh,
that
good.
would be. But I know it's because I spent a day, like I said, I went through a lot of stuff. I went through an
Yeah.
implosion,
Hmm.
and so I went through a day where I didn't eat very good and didn't drink very much. So my body's
Yeah.
now about 2 days after going. Um.
I need some hydration.
I need some
Well,
hydration.
and water is one
Thank
of
you.
those
Sorry.
things. No, you're fine. But water is one of those things too. I mean, any body, like it's so much water to begin with, but just hydrating, we can perform better in our business or career or whatever. And
Mhm.
that's one of those things. I don't know if it gets a lot of stage time and conversation, but it's powerful when we hydrate well.
Yeah. Well,
Rain doesn't.
the body alone has a lot to say, and that's one thing that I do a little bit of psychic mediumship or a medical medium.
Yeah,
So with that I do look at people's bodies and I do
yeah,
work on it, and and so like the thigh, it was in
yeah.
the back of the thigh. The left side's about receiving,
Okay.
right?
Oh, interesting. And that's what we're
And it's
talking
the
about.
thigh, so it's the the shin bone, so it's behind the shin bone with, and that whole area is
Yeah.
about the first setup of stability, right? Because it's
Oh.
working its way up into the knee, which is
Mhm,
flexibility.
mhm.
And so with me, it's like, okay, am I cramping because I'm talking about receiving about something that I have never I've always saw myself doing, but
Yeah.
now it's the physical application of doing it.
Mhm. And what if it was easy and fun,
And it is. That's
right?
the thing is that there's like the part of me, like the it was interesting. I do radio show on
Mhm,
KKNW,
mhm.
and I'm the animal medium. So
Oh.
I do the animal intuitive, and and so with that, we were closing down with COVID. Our
Mhm.
school closed down on Monday. That following Sunday was the first time I was on the radio. So
Aw.
I knew that it was time for me to come out, even though things were closing down, right?
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
so, yeah, metaphors in life. I totally
Yeah.
live by metaphors. And so with I had on the way down to where KKNW is down, and
I've been
it's
there.
about an hour and a half drive for me. So with that on the way down, I was like, okay, guys, I know 90% of us want to go because I believe
Yeah.
that it's the humanness, the shadows,
Mhm.
the inner child, all these different parts of it. And I said, okay, but the part of us that's going, "Ah, you're coming along for the ride
Yep,
because
yep.
we're going, and
Move forward.
you want to do this, you can do this." And so I have these personal
Mhm,
conversations with
mhm,
myself.
mhm, mhm.
We can do it. We can do it.
Yeah. That's one of the things my sales coach says is you've gotta be your own best cheerleader. Because at the end of the day, coaches get expensive and partners can be disappointing or who knows what, but we've gotta be our own best cheerleader. And so I think it's great
Hmm.
that you encourage yourself and that you're graceful with yourself when you're like, "What's happening? Like, how can we get through this?" Like, that's important. If more people spoke kindly to themselves, this whole country would be remarkably different. So,
Hmm. Yeah, it is one of those things. So if anybody has any comments, I know that Veronica has made a comment, and I thought that there was a couple other comments that came in that I would get noticed down below, but I think StreamYard has been having some updates they're doing, and so not everything has come through. But I know on Twitter I don't get your comments, but I saw somebody did make a comment, but I'm not going to repeat what that was because it's not something I want to repeat because
Right, that's fine. You never know what people are gonna say. Sometimes life doesn't
exactly.
have to make sense to appreciate it.
Yes, and I'm grateful that we look good enough or that we seem good enough to be loved in that way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um so with that, so we are in the last couple minutes here. We're trying to keep things to an hour here. And so I knew this hour was going to go fast.
Yeah, I did.
I have no doubts. People always say, so what are we going to talk about? Because it's like these lists, but if anybody knows anything about me, even in when I did Toastmasters,
Mhm.
they would call upon me because they say, I know you don't need a speech written. You
Yeah.
can just get up and talk for 10 minutes and be
Yep.
fine. So it's like I have some goals and some knowings to write about or
Yeah.
to talk about, but I usually let things move because spontaneity in many forms is brilliant.
Mhm, mhm,
We can, and that's the thing is we don't let life be spontaneous enough. We want to
mhm.
control it. We want to sit with it. We want to stifle it, and
Yep.
it's like it's not a good
Yeah.
thing.
My sister and I were actually talking about that. And with my personality type, I actually have to plan blank spots in my day where I don't have a meeting or commute or a commitment. And so there's these little gaps where I plan free time because I know with my personality that little bit of spontaneity or crafty time or just sit and think time, it's so important. So if you've never done that
Hmm.
before, just plan nothing time where you're gonna just pick from your imagination of what to do because yeah, some people, it's like they're so rigid with their schedules, and it's like, we've gotta have some time to just be, and not
Exactly.
being, but just to
Exactly.
be.
And that's one thing that as because I used to work full time at school till like
Mhm,
almost 4 o'clock, and I moved it up to 1:10, so I
mhm.
had time to do work hours
Yeah.
and then have more freedom hours, and I'm still playing that because I am producer, I am you know secretary, I am all these different things, and so logistically having
Yeah.
time to do it because
Have you ever thought about getting sponsors for your show?
no.
That's something we should talk about too, is just get you a sponsor, someone to pay $500 a month just to keep you in business, right? There are people that would do that to get a little, a shout out at the beginning or the end of the show, I would think.
Yeah, because I don't want to be.
Yeah.
There's enough commercials. There's enough sales. But
Mhm,
if somebody like if you wanted to sponsor me,
mhm,
there's integrity there. You
mhm,
know, I hold integrity, very
mhm,
high integrity for myself, and um, I would ask that
mhm.
somebody who I'd be working with would hold that same
Yeah,
integrity. Does that
sure.
make sense?
Yep.
So it wouldn't be I would have to I'm a salesperson.
Yeah, you'd have to vet them.
I'd have
Mhm,
to vet them, strictly, yeah, because it's one of those things. But I would be grateful actually because of the logistics of doing this,
mhm.
that there is.
Yeah,
And Veronica says it did go fast. But that's the thing is when you have people and you're in sync and you have
mhm,
the same ish intentions of
mhm.
joy and moving forward, and I mean it builds on each other, and
Yeah,
it seems like time speeds by because
yeah.
it's in sync. It speeds the wheel,
Mhm,
it feeds
mhm.
the wheel. It's kind of like water running,
Yeah.
over the old water wheels, for
See, you're full of metaphors, I love it.
I
You're gonna love the art, I'm just saying, you're gonna love it. I can feel it.
I do love art. Actually, I do miss doing my scrapbooks,
Mhm,
and I miss that physical creativity,
mhm,
like doing my house. It's like I have a lot of stuff. I'm not a hoarder yet. I do have,
mhm.
I like my things around me.
Yeah.
I like my things. And so with that, but I do it with feng shui. People come into my spiritual room and they go, "There's a lot of stuff, but each one has its own story.
Mhm.
Each one has its own intention." And I go, "Yep, yep."
Good, Good, good. Well,
So
thank
we
you.
gotta hook up. We gotta
Yeah.
we gotta set a time and hook up because
I'll
I would.
come to you because you've always come down here. I'll come up that way so you can
Oh,
move in
okay. I have
person.
a place where we can meet. So
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me today. It was a joy
thanks.
to connect and share and meet some of your friends here and just, talk about life and good things. So
Well, thank you, thank you. I so am grateful for you. Okay, so how do people get a hold of you? And I'm going to update the information because there was some misconnect with me being able to get the information to put it into the
I mean,
logistics.
I procrastinated. You can call me out.
I don't call people
It
out.
was election day yesterday. I was a very busy girl, and now I'm
Yeah, no.
not.
I call actions out. I don't call people out.
Yep, fair.
Yeah.
We'll get something good. Yeah, no, dreamosity.com or there's always laughtechnw.com. So there's just reach out and I'm on YouTube too. So if you search Marcelle Allen in the chat or in the YouTube chat, YouTube search, I'll pop right up. So
Cool,
thank you,
cool,
Natasha.
cool. Well, blessings and thank you for being here. And I'm Natasha Venter. I am a psychic medium who really enjoys helping people work through life. And if you've watched the show at all, you kind of know that I dance a little bit in different scenarios. So, with that, if you're looking for personal consultation, I am able to do that. If you want to reach me at angelicclarifications.com, you can make an appointment on my website, or you can email me at Natasha at Angelic Clarifications. And we talked about group mediumships on this show. I don't know if we did talk about it, but we talked about it beforehand. I can see myself standing in front of 50 people having group mediumship, and I am willing to come and do. I love doing feng shui, and I can do that virtually also. So with that there is this application.
Hmm.
I love being able to be on camera, but I love humanness too. I'm
Yeah.
such a human person. So with that, you can reach me. I'm live Mondays and Wednesday, 4 o'clock Pacific time, here on Facebook, YouTube, and on Wednesdays, if I don't have a guest, on Instagram. And also, this show will be on podcasts, as you can reach other podcasts on other platforms. All you have to search is Life Clarifications with Natasha. So, blessings to you, and thank you so much for being here. See you next week with Regan on Monday. Bye now.